What's going on, Bear Handians? Bear Hands here, bringing you a very exciting Clash Royale video on a deck that we have created based off of a couple of ideas and thoughts that I had in regards to the Graveyard spell. It throws a bunch of skeletons on their tower. They counter it with a large amount of units, or a small amount of units, but what that allows them to do is counter your 5 elixir spell for sometimes 2 elixir or more, and then their counter push is massive and devastating. I have found success using the Graveyard with counter pushes and things like that to offset the downfall of it. Wouldn't it be incredible if we made a deck where we can throw the Graveyard down and then deal with the massive counter push effectively? The first card that came to mind, which I have not had a lot of success with in the past, is the Giant Skeleton, and the thought of using it in a successful competitive deck is really exciting to me. So what we're going to do is kind of highlight what this deck is about. We've got the name of the deck is the Grave Robber Bomb, essentially the miner and the Graveyard. Throwing in the Giant Skeleton gives us a ton of worth on that push and sometimes some really interesting dynamics. This deck also allows you to use him solely on defense and chip damage with the Miner Graveyard on counter pushes as well. And so it's very versatile. It's got a lot of concepts. I am going to show you 5 replays. No live games today, simply because this deck is really exciting, and the only way for me to really show all of the interesting nuances to it is to show you some replays where I highlight them. Loving the deck though. I hope you love it too. Let's jump into a couple of games. Okay, this first game against Nico91 Boba Boy. What we are going to look at in this game is just kind of a good old-fashioned grind them out with this deck. But the reason why we so successfully grind him out is because of the use of the Tornado spell and taking advantage of the Miner. And so I don't use it in this instance because I had already placed my Giant Skeleton down on the map, but we've got a Giant Skeleton going down. I'm going to throw my Miner down to just kind of tank and deal some damage to that Furnace because, goodness, the Furnace is awful. And then I throw the Graveyard down as he has spent a lot of elixir on those Barbarians. And notice that Graveyard brings his tower down well over 1,000 HP. It's nice to spend 5 elixir, deal over 1,000 HP, and then not have a horrible counter push coming at us. Now, the Giant Skeleton really didn't help in that regard that time, but the thought of just shutting down a counter push with the Giant Skeleton is exciting. We're going to let the Giant Skeleton go here. We don't want to put too much into a basket that is soon to be fried by an Inferno Tower. And he has got a Furnace in the back throwing, what do we like to call them? Fire blobbies bouncing toward us. He throws the Miner down, we pull it over to our King's Tower. Just a little advice on that tip, kind of practice pulling units to the 1 tile away from the King's Tower, because if you do 2 tiles away, they get stuck in that tornado, and he can't swing and hit your tower while he is 2 tiles away, so sometimes your towers kill him too fast for him to activate your King's Tower. Notice over on the right-hand side, we are damaging these Barbarians. We do a pretty decent job of doing absolutely no damage to that right-hand tower, and we're going to kind of ignore these Barbarians and pull them with the Archers, and then kill this push he has over on the left. And so, very effectively shutting that down, and notice now, I can kind of ignore the Miner without too much of a consequence now as my King's Tower is now activated. And so this trick, pulling the Miner over to the King's Tower and activating, that trick is amazing for these chip cycle decks. And in this instance, I'm going to throw my Giant Skeleton down here because I see a pretty big push coming, and I figured, you know what, why not just defend? It doesn't do a whole lot in defense for the Giant Bomb killing things, but it really stalls the units. The Barbarians go down, and then I do a quick rush with my Miner. He gets his Barbarians down pretty successfully, but even still, we chip it a few hundred damage. Check it out. Even with the Barbarians on the field, we are able to chip quite a bit of damage. And now, we've got a push coming, so what do? We got this giant push walking up toward us. Let's go ahead and throw down. Normally, I would throw the giant skeleton there, but let's take advantage. Throw the miner down, throw the graveyard down. He gets his barbarians down, but a little too late, and we go ahead and arrow out for the game. Really, really good game, Mr. Nico. Okay, this next game has another really amazing concept with the tornado. Okay, so I know this is a graveyard miner giant skeleton, but in fact, a lot of the dynamic that makes it a good deck is the tornado, so you're going to have to learn how to use it with its technical plays. He throws a Mega Minion down here. Our archers meander a little too far up there for my liking. He's going to throw a Goblin Barrel down, and I'm going to arrow the Goblin Barrel out. Now, if you know anything about the Goblin Barrel in the graveyard, when your King's Tower is activated, it does not as much damage because you have that third tower, and I think it's especially weak to that. So activating our King's Tower in this game is really, really important. He has got a Musketeer running toward our tower, and check it out. I see the Hog come down. We go ahead and pull it one tile away from our King's Tower, and his Hog activates our King Tower. Now, we took significant damage on our right-hand tower for making that play because we kind of ignored the Musketeer while we did it. I might have been faster with my fingers there, but activating that King's Tower was really good. I get an excellent miner down here to kill the Princess and also tank for the graveyard. And notice me ignoring the Goblin Barrel to get that tower there definitely allowed me not to take quite as much damage with the King's Tower. He has got a Valkyrie running toward us here. I am going to go ahead and throw a Tombstone in the middle. Then that's going to pull the Hog over. I'm going to separate my units because I know he's got the log, and my Mega Minion is able to take out the Hog without it getting a hit off. Now I throw the miner down to put pressure over on the other side because we don't want him to just be able to dump all of his elixir into trying to get that last 683 damage on our tower. Make him think about something else here. And he's going to go ahead and do some quick rushes on the tower. He throws his Princess down. I opt for the giant skeleton instead of the arrows because I knew he was planning on dropping the Goblin Spawner or the Goblin Barrel after that. And now check it out. We go ahead and get another push going here. He gets his Hog running. We're able to shut it down with the Tombstone, which is an incredible card. Kill the Hog completely. He's got our tower down to 375. And our Giant Bomb hits his tower, bringing it down to 2,800, and you don't often get a Giant Skeleton up to a King's Tower. I go ahead and arrow out those Goblins, and then I get a really quick reaction Tombstone out here, which allows me to keep my tower from dying, but that tower is soon to be dead. So what I decide to do is, I know he really wants that tower, and I figure if he is going to rush and get that tower, I'm going to let him and just go ahead and go in for a kill shot. So he gets the tower over on the right, and I go ahead and get the 3 crown with my giant skeleton. So really interesting game. He's not too happy about it, but notice in those games you have pulling the miner over to the King's Tower, pulling the Hog over to the King's Tower, and you don't even need a defensive structure. That is just OP. I struggled using the Tornado for a while, but this deck shines with it. Okay, this game against Playa One. That's an interesting name. Clashing out to Money. Clashing out to Money Clan, I guess. Really good game. Something that I have not yet perfected. So if you ask me, is this what happens every time I play against Royale Giant decks? The answer is no. I get pretty close to getting this every time, but I think this is where I struggle with. The Royale Giant is really strong, but being able to hold the Royale Giant at bay is a skill that I am perfecting and actually becoming more proficient with it than not. So I will say that I still lose to the Royale Giant because I'm unable to stop all that damage, you know, with a large defensive structure, but at the same time, I'm getting much better at stopping it. So check this out. I'm going to go ahead and throw down the Mega Minion. Now, that's very important. If I don't have the Mega Minion in rotation, I take way more damage. And I didn't have my tombstone ready, and so I soak like 1400 damage right there, which I do not like at all. And then I've got the giant skeleton running up here. I try to go ahead and get the giant skeleton up to the tower with those archers, but not the case. He is able to stop it completely. I chip a little bit of damage with my miner, and the archer gets a shot off. The arrows hit the tower, so we are looking at quite a big difference there. He is doing an excellent job of damaging our tower, but we shall power through this game. Let's see what we got. I know he wants to play his Royal Giant again, so he's going to do that, sir. Yep, and then I'm going to go ahead and throw down my tombstone, which soaks 2 shots. Get the giant skeleton down here. Go ahead and throw down the Mega Minion, which is going to deal a really good amount of damage, and he's still, even though I was able to get those units down, the Royal Giant, the whatever, it's some kind of giant, it's just going to blast away my tower mercilessly. And so, fortunately for us, because he put so much into that push, we're able to get the giant skeleton up to his tower and bring it all the way down to 543, so we are not out of the game. I throw the graveyard down on his side, but because it wasn't on a really good counter push, he's able to defend really well. And so here's what we're talking about. We've got a Royal Giant coming toward us. We've got a bunch of units coming toward us, so we're going to pull all of them away. The Royal Giant doesn't get a shot, and then the giant skeleton goes off and blows everything up. How is that for a positive elixir trade? That is incredible. And so ideally what I will keep doing is stopping the Royal Giant. It's going to get some hits off here. I'm going to get a damage dealing unit down, some archers, and then before the Royal Giant can get too many hits, I'm going to pull it. It gets 1 hit off, and he fireballs. Now, he spent a lot of elixir to get 1 hit and a fireball off on our tower, so our tower is down to 372, but our miner is chipping away at the tower. He was unable to react to it in time without both defending the miner and the giant skeleton, and we clutched that game out there with arrows at the end. What an intense game. Again, this deck is awesome. You're able to kind of soak a little bit of damage, get some damage dealers down, pull all of the units back, and when they start to all flood back at you, a lot of times your giant skeleton has died and you blow them all up. I mean like 12 elixir, 16 elixir worth of units all piling there on the bridge to meet their doom. Alright, if you want to see this deck play against a bunch of different kinds of decks, you came to the right place. We have got, I'm talking in an accent now, we've got the Grave Robber Bomb going up against a P.E.K.K.A. Rocket deck. I may have just won because who plays with a P.E.K.K.A. Rocket deck? Really? Moblob does. We're going to go ahead and pull these in with the Tornado simply because we don't want that to get out of hand. And he's just kind of cycling. He goes ahead and splits his Barbarians. I'm going to go ahead and throw my Giant Skeleton down here. And he does an interesting play. He goes ahead and follows up on the weak side. Well, it's not weak. It's the side that I didn't follow up on. I get a nice tank with my Mega Minion here. Thankfully, he doesn't get any hits off with the wizard there. I was a little bit scared. He's crying about it. I go ahead and tank the tower. Maybe not the best play there. I should have figured he was going to play small units to stop the giant skeleton, and if I had played arrows there instead of the miner, I'm pretty sure I could have got the giant skeleton all the way up to his tower. So maybe a little bit of a misplay there. I didn't know what was in his deck at this point, so important lesson there. If you don't know what's in his deck, maybe don't commit too much, okay? He goes ahead and tries to split his Barbarians, but gets a funky split in this regard, and his level 11 Barbarians are just marching toward our tower. So what you do is you take the strong side, you throw the giant skeleton over there, because you know if they end up killing the giant skeleton is going to kill all of them. I get another tank with the Mega Minion. This time we're able to take out the wizard without it killing our Mega Minion. And then check it out, we've got this counter push going here. We have got a graveyard behind his tower, and he throws a P.E.K.K.A. down to deal with the giant skeleton. Really interesting, but come back, Giants P.E.K.K.A. Let's pull you back into that giant bomb. That is just so awesome. We deal a ton more damage to it. We're going to pull these all over here, and important to have those arrows in this deck as when you throw down that tornado, you best believe they're throwing some small units after that. So go ahead and take care of those minions. Get the Mega Minion down here, get the archers, get a nice fan to spread there on those units so that they're unable to fireball all of them or kill all of them with that wizard. And I go ahead and take care of all of these skeletons with the tornado. Then we get our graveyard down. We know that he's probably got his minions, so I go ahead and get some arrows. Maybe a little late on the arrows, but it's okay. We are feeling really good about this game, and at this point, I know I can distract that P.E.K.K.A. with pretty much anything in this deck. I can use the miner to soak a hit. I can throw down the graveyard, which will keep it busy for at least 10 seconds. And that's exactly what I do here, knowing that the match is over. And so, very good game there against the P.E.K.K.A. deck. Got the jump on him with one graveyard there when he played his P.E.K.K.A. and just ate through that tower. A beautiful card. Okay, this last and final game was just kind of, I don't know, a little extra game to throw into the mix here. We have got some really interesting gameplay here, and I really felt that he had me outplayed, save... I'll just wait and let you get to it. He goes ahead and throws a goblin spawner, a goblin's hut here in the middle. I have got my skeletons going, and I kind of didn't really know what to do there, so I waste a little bit of elixir. Shame on me, don't do that. He throws his witch down. So what I'm going to do is throw my miner down in a graveyard over on the left-hand side. I know that the giant is going to get drawn over here, so what I do is instead of focusing on the giant, I'm going to focus on killing the witch with the Mega Minion. And while that is good concept, it doesn't. So I have to use the tornado here, which saves a ton of damage from getting onto my tower, kills the witch, thankfully it was low enough, stops those enraged units from dealing way too much damage, and I felt good about that. So I'm feeling good at this point. But he shifts his playstyle a little bit here. Having lost the tower early, he kind of bottles up and starts this amazing spawner gameplay. Really, really can't stand spawners. So he gets a goblin spawner in the middle. He's just going to go ahead and fireball out this tombstone. I kind of think he is planning on just fireballing our tower down and then getting this massive spawner game going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to also play a little bit defensive here up until I realize that's futile. He is chipping damage away. I go ahead and throw my giant skeleton down there at my tower to soak some damage. Get my archers down. Maybe I can push this thing up to his tower. Not the case. He gets a giant down here. He gets his barbarians on the flip side of our giant skeleton, which is exactly what you want, because now the bomb does nothing, and if I was a skilled player, I would have been ready with the tornado to pull everything back there. Not the case. So he goes ahead and just destroys our tower without mercy. I throw a really goofy miner over on his right-hand tower there, and at this point, I don't feel good at all. So what I decide to do is just go for it. What I do is I throw the giant skeleton down, I get archers down, I go ahead and throw a graveyard down, and it gets all the way up to the tower. Holy cow, his tower is dropping to 2,000, almost 1,000. The giant skeleton bomb goes off, and between the graveyard and the giant skeleton's bomb, it is a decimated. I really think he probably would have overwhelmed us if we didn't just get that last-ditch lucky counter push on the other side, switch lane push against his witch, and just crush his tower. If you guys are going to take this deck out for a spin, don't forget, you want to use that graveyard and that miner to kind of build up a group of units, and then you could use that giant skeleton as a defensive unit. You can also push the giant skeleton in there as a tank and use the graveyard up there. A lot of times they focus solely on the giant skeleton, and then all of a sudden they've got all these skeletons in the back, and arrows are great at taking out the princess or other things that they use, like the minion horde to counter the graveyard, and so it just has so many facets to it. Take that tornado out, maybe in some friendly battles, and just practice hog pulls to your king's tower. Practice miner pulls to the king's tower. Something that I haven't yet mastered is getting the lava hound over, and when it explodes, it activates your king's tower. Learn all those things, because the tornado spell, it's harder to use than arrows, but it gives you way more fulfillment, and it actually gives you a huge advantage if you use it correctly in a game to activate your King's Tower against a rush deck like you saw earlier, you just decimate their gameplay, because now they can't just chip as much damage with things like the graveyard, with the goblin barrel. You just take advantage of that. I hope you find this deck as interesting as I do. I hope it's exciting that you can use the giant skeleton in what I view as pretty competitive deck now. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you found this video enjoyable. You can share this video with your friends. I would appreciate that so very much. Thanks so much for stopping in. Don't forget to subscribe so you can come back for more gaming with bare hands, and I hope to see you in the next video. Adios. Have a great day.